We are back talking Legal Aid Society, taking your calls and questions with our guest this morning with regard to, specifically, your specialty, Tom, is helping inmates and folks when they get out of prison and jails find work again. And one thing that intrigued me, the idea of expungement, we touched on that, but a lot of them maybe just stop at that point and don't seek beyond it the certificate of employment, which I think sounds like a great extra layer. As you said, you present this and the employer, if ever anyone wants to challenge them for having hired someone who maybe has a criminal record, they can say, well, I have this certificate of employment. That insulates them from any litigation on that front, right?
That's right. From most litigation, and there are always exceptions.
So how do you get that? That means there's a judge or someone vouching to give this extra layer of credibility to an individual by giving him a certificate. So once they get expungement at the same time, they can pursue further. Can I get a certificate? How do they have to convince someone to give them one?
Basically, what is required is filing a petition, which really just means a request from the court, a petition asking for the certificate of employability. And part of the application is, in addition to personal information, it asks things about other jobs you may have had, or if you happen to have a job even at that time, you can get a positive letter of reference from your employer, letters of reference from community leaders, from church leaders if one is active in that community. If someone's doing a community service program, a letter from a director of the program talking about the work that they do. And then essentially the judge considers all of this character evidence. Typically the petitioner will have to appear at least one hearing so that they can be presented any questions that might be lingering about specific circumstances or specific things that they've done. But again, the judge basically takes all of the character evidence and decides whether someone is serious about a second chance and weighs that against the possibility that this individual will cause harm to the community. And basically, with the scales tipped in your favor, you're granted a certificate of employability.
Which helps you find a job.
Absolutely.
But you're telling me that a lot of folks don't take that extra step. Either they don't know about it, maybe they're intimidated, thinking, I got my expungement, I just don't want to mess with the courts anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can't blame them in that regard, maybe.
Sure.
Say, let's just move on.
Yeah. Again, this involves some area of speculation, so I won't get too specific, but especially, folks who are actively transitioning, they've got a lot on their plate. So they may want to go as far as expungement and then kind of set that aside and move on with other things. And again, it largely comes back to education, which is to say that folks don't necessarily know that these tools exist. They don't know that while there is paperwork involved, it is, as far as judicial proceedings go, it's pretty streamlined and not, not too intimidating. But a lot of folks just maybe don't want to do more work, or as you put it, don't want to get involved in the justice system again. But I think the biggest one, and again, not to repeat myself, but is education, is getting the information out there, teaching people that these options exist. I think one potential avenue for this might be to have some formal education provided for inmates who are nearing the end of their periods of incarceration, so that they understand going on the way out what options they have. That way, when they do get to me, it's not the first conversation they're having about these issues.
Right.
They've gotten some, maybe not on a granular level, but they've got a general overview.
Are they typically referred to you, like you said, they get out of jail and they've been there for, a few years, getting started, wondering what to do? I guess they get referrals. They know to call you, maybe?
Yeah. So, for example, I'm not going to name names just because I didn't get any permission to do so. But again, perfect example is a halfway house, better known as transitional housing. And when folks essentially go through this organization's intake process, one of the questions they get is, would you like somebody from Legal Aid to contact you? So that is one way that we have a lot of people referred to us. Again, with community partners who are more employment oriented, I may get a call saying, hey, we're running a job fair on such and such date. Would you be able to come in the morning and do a presentation and meet with a few people so that they can attend the job fair in the afternoon with a little bit more information in hand? So again, really, it all comes down to getting this information out there.
Just get it out. And the other point before we wrap things up is, when they do get out, oftentimes they can get all these other things taken care of, but a lot of the inmates say they're buried under fees.
Right.
It's paperwork fees, filing fees. I don't know, sometimes maybe they have to pay restitution, which I totally understand that. If they've done damage, they should make good on that. But these fees, you said earlier, some of them are forgiven these days because it allows them to get going. Well, the nature of the fees, what are they? Is it administrative stuff, paperwork fees, clerical fees?
There are typically clerk-related fees, you know, for filing, you know, a civil lawsuit on your own, for example.
But if they get out of jail and they're buried under these other fees too.
The fees, honestly, it's difficult to even begin enumerating them. It's everything from a booking fee, a fingerprinting fee. You get to pay for the privilege of spending the night in the county jail.
Yeah.
There are additional fees for maintenance of the jail. There are litigation taxes. I mean, you can look at someone's information and it can be a couple pages long, you know. And sometimes the fees are $2.50 or $3 each, but they add up over time. So that's how folks end up with this situation.
The truth is, most of these inmates don't have any money. Right? Most of them.
That is generally the case.
They're indigent before they went in there. I mean, who knows what their situation was, but it's not like they have money.
Right. I mean, unless they're lucky enough to have family to rely on, our typical client, yes, is somebody who is just indigent, oftentimes very apparently so. So
even if they get out and those fees are still hanging over their heads, then they really can't get on with anything, because you said if they can't pay those and they have no means to do so, they can't really get a job because they don't have a certificate, they don't have a car because they can't get a driver's license. So that just creates, and then you know what they do? They recommit crimes.
Right.
Because they have no choice.
Right.
It's not a good system, except I understand someone has to pay for this, right?
Yeah, that's true. And while there is kind of a nationwide initiative, it's known as the Clean Slate Initiative, which basically moves towards automating and simplifying the expungement process. But again, that's going back to the beginning with the court cost waivers. We can get restitution. We cannot generally get waived. If you have to pay someone back, you have to pay someone back. But all the other things, court costs and fees, those are generally to a judge's discretion. And if the judge chooses not to deem you completely indigent, the judge can reduce your costs and put you on a payment plan. So maybe you're lucky, and maybe you're not lucky enough to get everything waived, but you end up on a payment plan for $25 or $50 a month, and then you know, as long as you can manage that, you can continue moving forward.
On individual cases when they come in, I'm just curious, is there a time, I know it varies, but how long does it take for some of this process to go through for an inmate if they come to you, say, look, I want to get my expungement, I want to get a certificate? Can that happen in a matter of days, a matter of weeks, a matter of months?
It varies a lot from county to county, but I can give you a specific example. We held a legal clinic in mid-April where we had folks coming in working with the clerk's office. They submitted their paperwork on the spot. And yesterday in the office, I received back about 25 expungement orders from the court. Okay. Meaning that they turned it around in a matter of a few weeks.
A few weeks, okay.
That's a best case scenario.
Yeah.
As a practical matter, it often is not really weeks, but you know, a couple of months, 2-3 months. And again, this is in Davidson, and further outlying counties oftentimes don't have as streamlined a process, and they may be short-staffed. So it really does vary.
I'm just curious, you work out of the Davidson County office, right?
Yes,
so how many active cases do you have right now?
I have
roughly
about 115 open files right now.
Is that just you, or is that your whole office?
That is for the community reentry group. So I have myself, I have 2 law clerks, and I have my head paralegal. So we jointly attack those and cut them into pieces.
About 150?
115.
15. And how many, do you think you'll get calls today? Probably.
I mean, we get calls every day, and at this point we just have to kind of triage because we just don't have the bandwidth to go further. So my least favorite thing is telling somebody flatly no. So I try to tell people at least, listen, it sounds like you have a problem that we may be able to help with. However, we're really backed up right now. Let's touch base again maybe at the beginning of the fall, and you know, I'll jot your name down and put it on my informal waiting list. But
I can imagine that's a long list. And that's what's crazy to me. I just know how many people must call. That's why those clinics come in handy. Let's put the clinics up again, I think, for folks. We can let them know that you do have them. There's some scheduled, and at the clinics, there's lawyers there. This is a chance for them to ask questions, sometimes one-on-one. There you see it, in-person clinics. It means you'll be there or others. And yeah, June 11th, Yep, June 8th. How about that? Veterans only. Sometimes you're dealing only with veterans, I see on there.
We deal with specific groups.
Yeah.
Again, these are folks who provide us referrals. So that's from an organization called Men of Valor, which serves primarily, actually exclusively veterans. So this is an event that basically will end up catering to one particular demographic. Most clinics are open to pretty much anybody. You can come in, ask a legal question to a lawyer, sit with them for 15 or 20 minutes, and we may not be able to take your case, but we'll at least give you some idea of where you're at, what your options are, so on and so forth.
Yeah, you can just give general, maybe legal advice, or let them know where they stand, or if they have it. Listen, I know a lot of lawyers because of the business that I deal with. And,
I'm sorry.
And they're great. They're the best sources of stories. But on top of it, if you have a friend, and I know people probably have a neighbor that's a lawyer. I mean, how many times have you called him or her and said, hey, listen, I'm just curious. Tell me, where's my legal standing on this? And I'm not talking about criminal stuff, anything. And it is such, ideally speaking, if everyone could get a law degree, it would serve them well, not to become lawyers,
right.
But if we all had a better understanding of the law and specifically what our rights are, I think it would serve everyone, because there's so many people, quite frankly, don't realize the rights they have.
Right.
Or the rights they don't have. And so it's an incredible resource. We'll put the number up again if you get a pen and paper when we come back, and you can write down for Legal Aid Society. I don't know, they call in. If they don't get someone on the horn, they leave a message, you get back to them?
Yep.
Tom, you're awesome. Thank you for
so
coming
much
on.
for the
You guys
kind
keep doing what you're doing over there. Legal Aid Society, I don't know, it's that and the lawyers who give time through pro bono are invaluable.
Absolutely.
I mean, people need to know what their rights are, and I appreciate you coming on today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Take a break, be back with a programming note and that phone number for you right after this.